When we go against our better judgment and the consequences that most likely will follow, that's today's subject. And I will have 4 points that I'm going to cover with you today. The first one being invited to large functions and how to handle that. Number two would be being offered a new position or perhaps a promotion. Number three would be perhaps a second date. And number four would be making a rather large purchase. And how do you handle these things with authenticity towards yourself and your pocketbook, so to speak, and good conscience. So anyway, welcome. My name is Ellen. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I really do. It means a lot to me. Thank you. So number one would be invited to an annual event. With all the holidays coming around here very soon, we are almost in September. I cannot believe where August or even July went. Time flies. But with all the events coming up in November and December, and and then of course New Year's Eve and what have you, there are lots of expectations tied onto that. And of course, if you're invited to family events, I'm hoping you have a good relationship with your family, and you can tell them that perhaps you want to skip this year due to the fact that you want to maybe stay home or start your own tradition if you're a very small family, right? There are many reasons why we don't always want to attend functions that we're invited to. We are grateful for being invited, obviously, but I think if you want to decline, you should be able to decline, even if it's work related. I mean, I've been to functions that are rather large, and I have been looking around back then, and I noticed that I could have stayed away, and they probably wouldn't even have taken note that I wasn't really there. I mean, when there are hundreds of people, one person not being there, I don't think that they're going to notice. But if it's a smaller function, obviously, sometimes, you are expected to show up. But I'm thinking if you really don't want to, and it really goes against your better judgment, so to speak, where you just kind of feel, not that your skin crawls, but it's just, you really don't want to go because of some event that perhaps happened a year or 2 years before, and you have still memories of that, maybe a little drama, then I'm thinking talking to your supervisor and telling them that you cannot make it this year. It's okay. It's all right. So try that. So remain authentic. number two would be when we are being offered a new position, right? Perhaps with that comes a large increase in your finances. But with the large increase in finances, and there often also come there's a large expectation tied into it. It's interesting how we often accept things, and then in hindsight, we look at it and we're like, wait a minute, I'm kind of not making as much as I am because I'm I'm entertaining, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and I buy pizza, and I do all kinds of things, buying coffee all the time, whatever that might be to get the team going, right? So sometimes when you look at the bottom line, it's not that much more that you are earning. Sometimes you even have times where you're being offered a position perhaps on the opposite coast. And even though they may be paying for your trip, obviously for the move, still you're going to end up paying out of pocket in terms of having to get rid of all your food in the refrigerator and freezer and rebuying everything. Then, of course, there are, if you have moved a few times, I know I have, you will find that every time you move, your current furniture just don't really fit all that well in a new place. There's always some adjustments that you have to make, and that's going to cost you, like it or not. So make sure that you calculate all these things in when you make your decision, because otherwise, if you go against your better judgment, you're going to regret it, and you're going to be angry at yourself or disappointed, or just like, oh, what was I thinking? So think about those things. And second date. Yeah, I had, I wanted to mention this. I had a friend who mentioned that she went out the other day with someone on her first date. And well, he ended up just talking about himself for hours. And she really didn't get much of her, of words in altogether. And so he asked her for a second date. And so she called me and I told her, I said, look, that's up to you. If you want to sit and be talked at, then go ahead and accept. But if you want to be talked to, you might want to consider a different date, But I think it's always depending on the chemistry. But I feel like when we go against our better judgment and just give the guy a break, so to speak, maybe he was nervous, right? But if you're not feeling it in any way whatsoever, don't go. I mean, if I think your first instinct always gives you the answer. I don't think that she needed to call me actually. She probably already knew that she wasn't going to go, and no, she didn't go. To tell you, she didn't go on a second date. So I'm thinking it's not just about the second date. Sometimes you might have an interview with a new employer, and there's just certain things that kind of, they're almost like red flags with the expectations and and the rules and what have you, and it might not suit you. You might get a vibe that it's just it's energy wise, the staff that's present doesn't seem very happy. So trust yourself. I think that often when we go for the money, so to speak, rather than for the job in itself, we get burned somewhere where we tell ourselves, gosh, I went against my better judgment. I had a feeling, and I think we all been there. Even if we order something on the menu and your eyes, are on one line, and then you go to something else because you want to live a little and try something different. You go like, I should have gone with with the first choice, right? And that's how it is. So listen to your instincts. If it is the second date, if it is a interview, a job, go with your instinct, go with your gut. It is truly telling you the truth from the very first time. So don't doubt yourself, and if you do say yes and you really meant to say no, you're probably going to regret it. And so it's all about standing in your power and be honest with yourself. When you are making a rather large purchase, that you kind of want to because you have the money, but you have doubts. So perhaps, write down the doubts or talk it over with a friend or family member on what the reality and all of that might be. It might be a larger home that you want to buy, or maybe a smaller home. Perhaps you want to buy a boat or a car, a new car. See if the current car is still doing the trick. And if not, and you have the money, then by all means do it. But if you are hesitating, it usually tells you something. So if you are not going straight for it because you feel it's the right decision, then your instinct most likely will tell you the truth. And I think standing in your truth, it's really important, because otherwise you might end up with, if you're buying a bigger car, obviously more insurance, more gas, more payments, right? A higher payment, and so on and so forth. So it is often, I know I've had a colleague when I lived on the East Coast. It was interesting. I mean, it snows a lot on the East Coast, and he bought a boat in the fall because he thought it was a great deal. He had to get a promotion and more money and what have you. And that boat was always sitting. He was really spending more time repairing and maintaining it during the winter than actually being on the boat. I think from the time when I knew him, in the summertime, maybe he was on it 4 or 5 times. There was always something going on with the family that he never got to take the boat out. And so on Monday morning, he would come in and say, Ellen, would you believe it? I again didn't get to take the boat out. And I'm like, what did you do? He said, well, I got so mad. I went on the boat and I slept on the boat, but I didn't take it out. And I was just like, okay. So that just tells you that, he had a feeling in the beginning when he was going to buy the boat that he probably shouldn't, but he always been wanting a boat. So because he got that promotion, he decided to go with it. And it just, I told him maybe try to sell it, but I don't know what happened to him in the boat. But it's just one of many examples, right, that we all have. to where we are going against our better judgment. We know better, and often it serves us in terms of safety too. I mean, if you are, there are these movies, right, where someone takes a dark alley. Why would you walk down that dark alley at night, right? It makes no sense. But of course, those are the movies. But many people often do things when they know instinctively not to do certain things or not to go down a certain route, be it financially or partnership, work, even something simple like ordering something on the menu. But it is just your first instinct is usually right, but we are humans, right? We often go in the opposite direction, and it's going to cost us. There are consequences, and my question would always be, are you willing to pay the price? Because that's really the ultimate question. Is like, okay, if you are going down that path of wanting to buy a new car, a new house, a boat, whatever, right? Going on a vacation to a new destiny you've never been, but you heard kind of interesting things about it, and you're not fully sure, but going with it anyway. And then they don't like, oh, I shouldn't have gone. What did I do? So it's just all these things that we do. And I'm thinking when we go against our better judgment, there is a price that we're going to be paying. Those are the consequences. So think about when you were 5, 6 years old. I know I have a granddaughter and she's 5, but when she was 4, I remember at times, she would be, her parents would put a new dish in front of her, right, to eat, and she would just like push it away, like, I don't want this, right? And just being so authentic, so in the moment, having no problem with saying no, um, and I don't like it, or I don't like you. I mean, we have obviously, we want to be kind to everyone, so we are not going to be that bold, obviously, to say I don't like you. But it's okay to cancel, a gathering if you don't want to go, because perhaps maybe you don't like the people, right? And that's okay. And nice of them to think of you, but it's okay to say no. So when you make these decisions, think back and say, okay, in my little self, when I was a little child, I was so comfortable in my own skin and putting up those boundaries and doing what I want to do and not doing what I didn't want to do. Maybe we need to, remind ourselves a little bit more of that little kid inside of us and to do more things that we really like to do. Because otherwise, like I said, there are going to be consequences, and they're not always pleasant. They can be expensive too. But yeah, continue to be honest with yourself. That's really my message here today. So anyway, if you like this video, please like and share. And then, of course, subscriptions are always free with YouTube. And I really appreciate YouTube for giving us this platform. It's amazing. So happy Friday. And I hope you have an amazing weekend to just do lots of fun things. Just, spoil yourself in whatever way that might be. Going out to the movies, getting a massage, go out for a nice dinner, go to whatever you want to do. But anyway, have a great Friday, have a great weekend, and I'll see you next Tuesday. And thank you for tuning in again. Okay, bye-bye.